Hey, what's going on, guys and gals? So I tried to do a little live stream this morning, but I was having some reception issues, and I thought this is something better and bigger to probably talk about and form a better video around. So I wanted to kind of shoot this and put it out there as, you know, my thoughts and more so my kind of plea to not only the community of drone pilots and mini quad users and all that, but also to those that are out there running the companies that are beginning to fragment the community itself. And you know, this is something that I'm really passionate about. This is something that I really care about, how the industry progresses, because we're still not outside the window of this becoming a full-on mainstream accepted industry, sport, and all of that. Many other sports have reached the benchmarks that we have so far in mini quads. You know, paintball, RC cars, motocross, all kinds of activities, X Games have all come and gone. And I truly think that mini quads and drone sports and drone activities and drone entertainment and all things drone related have a long-term roadmap if we can all fall in line and make sure that we get to there, like that we progress as an industry and as communities and as individuals. Because no single company and no single person will ultimately be responsible for the ultimate, you know, reality, which is that we can, you know, 20 years from now, DRL is still going and it's spawned all kinds of local chapters and leagues, and MultiGP is a part of that, hopefully, or whatever, and Hydra is going to be doing its thing, and, you know, Rotor Riot will be blowing up and be the foremost, you know, entertainment value, production value stuff on the planet, and Team BlackSheep and, you know, IRC, Immersion RC will be battling it out as the Coke and the Pepsis, and you know, Get FPV and Heli Nation and Pyro Flip will be, you know, the King 3, and, you know, I see this vision for the future that I think a lot of, I mean, if any of these companies are not thinking that way, then why are they doing it, right? So as a community, we need to understand that we are the ones with the power. Like, we speak with dollar bills, we speak with hashtags and tagging companies and social media posts and logos and stuff that we put on our content, right? We have power in how things are spread. You know, yes, there's hype, and yes, there's just long-term use case experience that, you know, a lot of users agree on. And so the happy medium is in that middle, right? Is where everybody's happy about whatever they fly. They don't care about the other guy or girl, and they just go and do them. And they buy what works for them, and they fly what works for them. Well, we don't live in that, you know, basic of a world. We live in a world where last night I went to post a video, and I had a TBS Crossfire, and I had a Immersion RC Tramp, and I had okay, it wasn't a Tramp, it was a Maytag, but still, and I had a Helio RC flight controller, and I had a Crossfire receiver, if I didn't say that already, and I had, you know, Electrify RC motors, and it was on an X-Lab Steez, right? So I've got all these parts, and I had a Cadix camera. Man, I mean, come on, what else, like, how more eclectic can that build be, right? But it's my build. It's what flies, it's what works. My BRAP, almost identical as far as Maytag VTX. It's got a Helio flight controller and a Maytag PDB. It's got cheap-ass motors, and it's got ERC, Electrify RC ESCs, and it's got a Runcam Sparrow. One's got a Foxier Pagoda, and one's got a TBS Triumph, right? And those are my two main rigs. It works for me. It flies for me. I love the way it flies. That's what I'm gonna fly. I just yesterday was told I should be flying maybe some other frames just because of some associations I have. And sure, I could, and I would. And I have actually flown that brand of frame before, but it's not working for me the same way that my BRAP and my stees work for me in conjunction together, built the way they are. So for me, I'm gonna fly what I fly. And so I fly what I fly, right? And so that's great, and it works for me. But I'm on social media and I share my experiences because I want to help other users and I want to know what's going on and I want to be in the know and I want to be, you know, first to the new hype. And not only that, but I just like to share my experience, right? I like to see if people like to see what I do. Whether they do or they don't, hey, that's up to them. But that's the world that we now live in. But the thing is we hold the power as the consumer. Our social media bubble is only as important as we make it. And these companies all operate in a world where real marketing in the real world is too expensive. They can't go out and put commercials on TV or publication, you know, marketing materials in magazines necessarily because they're just not going to reach enough of their demographic to make the return on investment worth it. So social media is the only marketing place that startups and these companies in this new and developing industry are going to be able to use to their advantage. And so we have to be careful about giving that power back. And we give that power back, and I keep saying that, by being loyal. And by being a brand loyal, you're instilling and kind of taking the power that the company that you have and you're kind of giving it to the company to use. To say, hey, look, we have this huge user base of extremely loyal customers that they do everything, you know, Rotor Riot, or they do everything TBS, or they do everything Emacs, or they only fly pulse batteries, pulse batteries or tattoo batteries, whatever one, right? They give that loyalty, and that's yours to give. But you don't have to give it for free. And to me, giving something for free would be not that I'm tagging people or I'm always trying to, you know, participate in something and no one ever gives me credit for it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if I'm going to give my loyalty, like I'm going to say, you know what, I'm only going to fly TBS Unifies from here on till eternity. Well, I'm making a really solid choice probably for myself if that's my decision. But if I'm going to then take that and I'm going to make sure that everyone knows that anytime I answer a question, it's always going to be TBS Unify or nothing, well, then I'm choosing to give that power off to the company. I'm choosing to say, hey, TBS, use me to further your agenda. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you believe in a company and you buy in and you want to be that loyal and that supportive of a specific company for specific reasons, go and do it. But as general for the community, I think that we need to take the power back from these other companies. I get it. There's only a few companies out there that do a few things really, really well. And TBS is one of them. Rotor Riot is another one. Immersion RC is another one. Again, Inventing, Get FPV, Heli Nation, Pyro Flip, right? Like these are those that are setting benchmark standards and trying to push the industry into something that they can build a company around for long-term success. And we have to respect that and we have to understand that. But we also don't have to be so willy-nilly with giving out our full support and our full power of this is 100% right or this is 100% wrong because this is where I draw my lines. I mean, you can if you want to be that person, but in all reality, it's not going to help the totality of the growth of the industry because that's going to cause fighting. That's going to cause issues, right? And so we're seeing this now with Rotor Riot and TBS really coming to a head, with MultiGP being kind of in the middle, but they like to say they're in the middle, but they're not. Honestly, they're on the TBS side because, and understandably, TBS has supported MultiGP for years and given them hundreds of thousands of dollars, I assume. I don't know, but I'm going to assume it's in the hundreds of thousands over the years. And MultiGP had better stand by TBS. They absolutely should. That's a whole other issue, and I don't even want to get into it, but I will say that I'm not pleased with the way leverage is being used for multi-GP across the board. But that is not what this conversation is going to be about. Again, I'm not going to get into who's right necessarily or who's wrong, because for me, I love all of these. I do. I have passions for all of these brands. And I have a position kind of within each of them where I would like to affect it with a positive push towards, again, the right direction. So I don't want to talk about all that way. But, you know, Rotor Riot and TBS are having their, you know, it just seems like their quarterly spat. But it just seems a little deeper this time. And I think that that's what's bringing this conversation for me to light is I feel like it's reaching a point where it's spilling over and is honestly on the tipping side of going towards, this is not what's going to help us. Like, this is definitely what's going to detract, you know? And so I just want to say that from both perspectives, I'm a fan of Rotor Riot from the start. I was one of the very first people when Chad started all this and started going to be like, Chad, you got to create a group. I don't know if I was the very first, but I was one of the first. And we had a whole discussion about why he wanted to create, or why they didn't even need a Rotor Riot group. And quite frankly, I think I might have been one of the tipping scales as to why he created the Rotor Riot group. So blame me a little bit. I don't know. But I thought it was important that he needed a group to do exactly what he's doing, which is being Chad Kapper and pushing the boundaries and bringing in content and creation and allowing and facilitating better content creation and better entertainment and just facilitating and creating. Like, that is a huge thing for us. And without Rotor Riot, I know I wouldn't have nearly as much inspiration towards the videos that I make. So just for my own personal place, I would say I owe a tremendous amount of, you know, respect to everyone that's ever been involved with that stuff, because it's always pushed me. From the very first Sharpoo video I saw way before Rotor Riot existed, to every video that I do see when I do see them, which I'll be honest, I don't watch every Rotor Riot video. I haven't seen one in a while. I love them. I do. It's great stuff. TBS, oh man, you guys don't even know. Like, I go back to yelling and pushing around on Trappy to 2013 when I was a total noob and I was building discoveries and, you know, NASA-based flight systems and stuff. There's posts where I actually call Trappy out for putting womanizing terms in his flight boxes, as far as the OSD saying you flew like a girl, and other business. Like, that spawned a very deep conversation. My very first interaction with Trappy was me writing him and getting on him about complaints that businesses were having about the OSD, and his lackluster response basically saying it's TBS gear, don't use it if you don't like it, after people were spending thousands of dollars on equipment to use them in commercial applications. So, you know, funny enough, my first interaction with Trappy, technically I was again one of those people that helped change his mind. They did an update the next day. Hugo Salinas and myself are one of the ones that were pushing for it. And sure enough, they updated the OSD to where you could turn off the feature that says you flew like a girl. So that's way back in 13, 14, that my very first interaction with the all great Trappy, and I had no idea who he was. I just knew he ran a business. I knew that I bought like my first like kit that I was gonna take my NASA-based F450 and I was gonna convert it. I was buying already into BlackSheep. Like, I was like, I'm sold on this BlackSheep stuff. And then I saw his post and I'm like, whoa, like, that's not who I wanna buy into. So I'll just say that again, like, I like to say I'm neutral, that I'm Switzerland. I'm not. Drew told me last night I'm a horrible Switzerland, and I know, but what I mean by I'm Switzerland is I'm that middle ground that I don't care which side makes it to that middle ground. In fact, I'd prefer both sides make it alive and fight their way there, but make it alive and well to where they can shake hands and kind of let's build a castle right here, right? Like, that's who I am. Like, I want to be that middle ground that I'm like, look, you're great over there, dude. You're a baller. You're doing this amazing love. Dude, you're over here doing this. It's awesome. You guys come together and meet right here and fight your way to the top and let's do something, you know? And I know that sounds pie in the sky, but it's not. I really, truly think that if TBS and Rotor Riot can come to some understanding at some point down the road, which I hope they do, that this is just business. And maybe that's what this is. Maybe we're all being played. I hope we are. I hope this is a Chad Kapper and Trappy stunt that they're going to long con us for a year and a half into this, you know, who's better, who's worse, and then at the end of the day kind of come together. I don't know. But if they could make it just work, right, like a marriage, because that's what I look at it as, is two very similar sides. Chad, Trappy. They're both super passionate about what they do, and what they do is very, very well at what they do it amazingly well, like the best at what they do in their game, right? And they're so good at it, and they're so passionate about all the same things that they usually can get right there, and they kiss, but they don't ever make out. They stopped having sex like, 5 years ago. I don't know. Like, I feel like that's what this is two so similar people that have known each other. I know they've known each other for decades, probably. Maybe like 15 years. I don't know. I'm just making assumptions. And like, they love each other so much for what they are and for what they represent. They just can't bring themselves, though, to do that final, like, they're not that comfortable, right? So, I don't know. I don't even know where I went with this. At the end of the day, I want to plead to Chad, to Trappy, to Sander, to all the IRC folks, to Tony Cake, to Live Time, to Hydra, to Pyroflip, to Heli Nation, to Get FPV, to all the companies, right? Come together. You don't have to love each other all the way. You don't have to condone everything the other person does. But you can like what they do and what they bring to the table, and you guys should be able to meet at the middle and go, you know what? We're not going to do an event this year because I just can't do a headline event with you, man. But what I'd like to do is I'd love to work towards the future of where these two events can stand alone and they can be their thing, and the community doesn't have to make a decision, because that's the unfair part. The unfair part in all of this is that the community is starting to feel like there's a divide. And I don't know what I can or can't post where or when anymore. And that makes it no more fun. This whole idea of mini quads and FPV is all about, for 3 minutes, to drop a pack in and go take off and not worry about anything else. I want that back. So, I don't know. That's my plea. Fly safe, fly smart. Fly what you fly. Just fly. Peace. One more thing I want to just say the Trappy story. Because I don't know how many people think that this is really just about Rotor Riot, or this is really just about Banggood or AKK or JB or Race Day Quads, right? Because those are the things that have in the last few months have really come up as the grinding the gears of Trappy, right? And the things that Trappy has really been vocal about. I want to say that I had a call with Trappy. Man, this would have been, I think it was like April of 2016. So in April of 2016, I was on a call with Trappy in regards to a project we were trying to kick off with a company I was with. And this was right around the time that the Atom, the V1 Atom, like the very first Kickstarter Atom, was about to launch. It hadn't even launched yet. And the Vendetta had been out for a few months. And I was talking to Trappy about a project, and it was funny because he told me then where we are today. And what I mean by that is, he told me in April 2016 that he already had stopped production. Like, he had stopped innovating himself. He said, Troy, you know what? TBS isn't going to innovate very much anymore. We're going to facilitate. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, I'm tired of retooling. I'm tired of buying new hardware or new things and paying people to design things and have them immediately taken and ripped off, and I can't never make my money back. So, you know, we just retooled for Vendetta and spent, you know, a ton of money on that, and that's the last tools that I think we're gonna retool for. I was like, what? I was like, nah. Trappy's tripping, right? Like, blah, blah, blah. We had a longer discussion. He kind of gave me some understanding as to what he meant, but I really didn't understand. I still was like, what does this mean? Like, is TBS going to go black? Like, they're just going to white label product for people? Well, no, they're not. Because what you've seen is what they did. They standardized and started revising their own hardware to a point to where now they're focused on their hardware they have on staying current and staying ahead of the curve. And they've also started facilitating other people to take the risk. So Rotor X, Ethics, right? Companies that are now helping or being facilitated by TBS to bring product to market. And TBS is marketing and selling it. FURC, I think, is one of their partners, right? Like, so these are the things that Trappy saw 2 years ago, over 2 years ago. That were already way going on before Rotor Riot even entered the scene, as far as why he was moving this direction and why he was thinking this way. So I just want to say that maybe consider that this blowback is a function of Rotor Riot currently, but that's just what's here today and kind of fueling the fire. The real fires were set back in 2013, 14, 15 when Trappy finally decided in 16 that this was the direction TBS was going to go. So you got to respect that, man, and I do. And again, respect to both Chad and Trappy. You guys just continue to do you, man. I'd love to get you guys in a room, though, and have you guys hash this out. I know we all do, though, right? Pie in the sky. Peace.